Weather added to a nightmare for passengers on an American Airlines flight out of Dallas overnight. They were stuck collectively at the gate and on the tarmac for roughly 9 hours, capturing the mood on that plane with their cell phones.
Yeah, dipping into the drinks card. You can see.
Exactly, as they should be. Our Rena Ninen is following the story for us this morning. Good morning, Rena.
Paula, Dan, good morning. By the time you make it here to the check-in counter, the toughest part of your journey might be perhaps the security line just behind me. But for some American Airlines travelers, they experience a series of flight delays turning into a travel nightmare they won't soon forget. A nightmare for passengers on American Airlines Flight 382, what was supposed to be a short, nearly 1 hour flight from Dallas to Oklahoma City turned into an eternity. Delay after delay, keeping travelers stuck on the plane 9 long hours after the flight was scheduled to take off.
10 hours later, feels great to be home. It's an incredibly stressful day. I don't want to ever do that again.
Passengers catching the mood on the plane with their cell phones.
It was just up and down. Like we were happy 1 second because we thought we were leaving, and then the next second we were just deflated because we were returning back to the gate.
American Airlines tells ABC News, "We apologize for the frustrating experience. Yesterday was a challenging day at DFW due to extreme weather impacting North Texas. The safety of our passengers and employees is always our top priority." Delays began because of winter weather and plane de-icing. But passengers were never held on the actual tarmac for longer than the 3-hour limit set by the passenger's Bill of Rights.
It was an unfortunate event. We're all here, nothing we can do about it.
But then a different law caused yet another delay. The flight crew had to be relieved after working more than the legal 8 hours. At times, the scene on the plane becoming chaotic. Passengers taking it upon themselves to raid the liquor fridge.
It was kind of a mix of comedy and anger. The tensions were high.
The good news, though, in 2009, there were 868 domestic flight delays, people stuck on tarmacs more than 3 hours. But since passenger protections were put in place, that number dropped to just 30 last year. Dan?
So some positive news. I like what that guy said about the mixture of comedy and anger. Probably unwise to add booze into that mix, but Rena, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in ABC News aviation consultant Steve Ganyard. Steve, technically, and Rena mentioned this, the airline didn't violate the passenger's Bill of Rights because the plane wasn't on the actual tarmac for more than 3 hours, but you say that is really not good enough.
Dan, I think they're being a little too clever by half here. They're saying, well, we trapped you on this airplane for 9 hours, but at least we didn't keep you out on the tarmac for 3 of those 9 hours. So, there are questions for American here. Why would you board an airplane and keep people on for 4 to 5 hours? Why would you send an airplane out to get de-iced and then have it sit there for 90 minutes? Why does it take 90 minutes to do that? So I think that America's really trying to defend the indefensible here.
Now, despite the infuriating nature of this experience for the passengers, you do want to make a point that de-icing is of paramount importance. Why?
Well, sometimes people don't understand why the de-icing process is so important, because anytime you get ice or even frost on a wing, you've changed that wing in a way that could make it so it couldn't be able to fly. Some of the worst aviation mishaps ever in history have been due to icing. So it's very, very important for the airplanes to be properly de-iced. But in this case, the weather had been bad for days in Dallas. This was not a surprise to American. They should have been better prepared. They should have executed better.
And they are apologizing this morning. Steve Ganyard, thank you for your expertise, as always.
My name is Pete Zimmerman. I'm a center manager at the Systems Operations Control. There are a number of departments in the office here. You've got dispatchers, you've got operations coordinator, you have crew scheduling, meteorologists, they all combine.
Maybe beautiful weather in DFW or Chicago, but if there's a lot of weather going on in the New York area, there could be a kind of a chain reaction.
In weather type situation, the meteorologist is key. We have those in-house, so we're in discussion with them constantly.
I'm Rob Hudson, and I'm with WSI, and I forecast pretty much most of the terminal weather for American across the U.S. My job's a lot different than the meteorologists on TV because their forecasts are public forecasts, and they're very, very general in nature. You know, there's a 30% chance of afternoon thunderstorms tomorrow, high temperature of 87, partly cloudy, that kind of thing. Where our forecasts, because they're aviation related, we have to be very specific on visibilities, cloud heights. They don't want to know, are we going to get crosswinds in the afternoon or in the morning? They want to know when is it going to happen, what hour, and when is it going to end.
It's the trick, is to go grab that information and get the best pieces of that and come up with a workable plan that you can safely get the customer from A to B, as many as you can.
My name is Tim Nisnik. I'm a senior manager in operations research. My group develops technology tools to help the operations make better decisions during the day of operations. We've given our operations folks the tools to say, how do I make sure that the delays that are being imposed on us impact the least number of passengers possible and have the littlest effect?
When weather occurs at a station, we have the dispatchers watching that.
My name's Terry Brodeen. I'm a flight dispatcher for American Airlines. So when the weather is impacting a big hub airport, so to speak, like DFW, or any of the New York airports where, you know, you have high demand and constricted airspace, the FAA can only do one thing, and that's slow the traffic.
The FAA creates arrival slots, and they give us the arrival slots based on the number of flights that we have scheduled to go into that airport. It's analogous to if I'm driving to the airport and there's normally 2 lanes of traffic going to the airport every day, but for whatever reason one of those lanes of traffic gets shut down. So now everybody has to funnel to one lane. Well, on a highway, what happens is that the traffic merges and it starts to get slow and people start backing up, and pretty much you're in a stop and go situation. Well, the same scenario happens at an airport, but instead of having all the aircraft merge, obviously they can't stop and go. So rather than having them circle around the airport, they have them delayed up at their point of departure for a certain amount of time so they can meter the flow, they can meter the aircraft into that airport. Now what's interesting is that the FAA doesn't care what flight we assign to what slot. So that gives us as an airline the ability to reallocate delay. So what this tool does is it looks at every connection and says, what if this flight gets delayed 60 minutes and this flight gets delayed 30 minutes? Or the reverse, what if this flight gets delayed 60 and this is 30? It looks at all those combinations and to say, what's the minimal impact on my customers? Example was this morning, one of our ops coordinators in our operations control center was using this tool, made some strategic delay decisions and reallocated the delay, and he was actually able to prevent about 45 international misconnects, and on one flight there were 15 people connecting to China, and he was able to get that delay reduced so those passengers are now going to make that connection. He was also able to reduce the domestic misconnects down to less than 50, starting from 300. And that's all to do with knowing who's on what flight and how delays are going to impact those passengers on that flight. Every day, somewhere in the system, we're being impacted by these ATC delays. And how we respond to those delays has a tremendous impact on our customers. So we know we're going to make every decision as best as we can, and the cumulative effect of those decisions is going to be what makes the difference between whether you choose to fly on our airline or a competitor.